Well, let's JCE
All right.
over to the next island or wherever we're going.
Why are you taking us there? I'm the captain of this ship.
I'll just sit in the back.
Let's talk about for briefly, and then we'll get to the big pay-per-view, the big French fry over there. But let's talk real quick about SmackDown. This past Friday night, May the 3rd, it was also from Lyon, France. And I guess the building is 11,000 something capacity. They sold out both nights, but besides the fact that you noticed immediately on television, they had the small setup because they've got more seats because all these people are in these seats. But they said this was the highest grossing SmackDown in history. And they've had SmackDowns with twice as many people. So what the fuck were those tickets over there? How's the French economy these days? Apparently, they're doing quite well with the sauces and the Pepe Le Pews. And, Pepe Le Pew figures are the 7th largest grossing domestic export from France.
That is not true. But
of course it's not.
They said that here. The next night, they said that it was the highest grossing arena event in WWE history. And when you hear it like that, the phrase like that, arena event, you stop and you're like, what does that mean? I mean, they run a lot of arenas.
But that means anything that's not a stadium. And they have run arenas with, capacities up to 22,000. So these were some expensive fucking tickets, is what I'm saying to you. And I was going to say this on the pay-per-view review, but I won't save it. I'll say it now. This really makes. Remember that old tagline that Vince had years ago? The World Wrestling Federation, the global leader in sports entertainment. They really are now. They have these international markets that have never had shows like this before. For one reason, Vince didn't want to do pay-per-views, the big show, whether premium live event or whatever, anywhere outside of the continental United States because the time zone difference, it would affect the buys, and the buys were where all the money came in. And now that not only have they got the Peacock deal or the Netflix deal coming up, or where they don't have to live and die on the sales of the pay-per-view, they're able to jack the tickets up individually so much now that they can gross as much on a goddamn live gate as they used to after their pay-per-view split was taken out with the cable company. So this is... And again, these fans were amped up for anything because it hadn't been done to death over there. It isn't old news. It isn't their third time there in the last 14 months or whatever. It's a big show that they've been hearing talked about on the television that's promoted around the world, and they get to be a part of it. And now the new ownership has said, oh, yeah, we're going to keep the big 5 here in the United States, WrestleMania, Royal Rumbles, whatever. We'll do the other 7 in these international markets. The next one's Saudi Arabia or wherever, right? They're going to get $50 million for. And then can you imagine when they do WrestleMania in London? Because the mayor just invited them. It's going to be goddamn... anywhere that they go now with this infrastructure and the UFC manner of worldwide touring, these crowds are going to be batshit insane, and it makes it to the American fan who's seen such blaseness over here for so long because we're used to it. It makes them think, oh, shit, this shit's more over than I thought they were, doesn't it? When you see a crowd like that, you think, what the fuck did I miss? These people are going crazy.
I think anytime they're going to go into a new market in Europe, you're going to see fans go this crazy. And a lot of the fans may retain that energy, but specifically for these first 2 shows, it was like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah, and when Vince did do the international tours, when he started that in the 80s, and then more so in the 90s when business domestically was down, it was still a thing where go in and do the house show, boom, and on to the next town, and let's ride it. And the guys were in Germany for fucking 2 weeks or whatever. But this, they go over, they do tons of publicity. It's the boom, get in and get out in a weekend and mega fucking gross. And the people are amped up for it because they know it's unique or very rare and unusual. And with this fucking SmackDown, what they presented the viewer here, the crowd saved it for the most part, didn't they? Because there was no, I mean, they could go out there and just fart at these people and they would have loved it. So it wasn't really for the, for the fans there that they had to do anything, but it was, the show was what it was, just because at one point I wrote, is this Rampage? Because it was what it was. The crowd was the story. They had the 8-man tag with Bailey and Naomi and Bianca and Jade against Oscar and Carrie and Dakota and Tiffany. And that was 20 minutes. And, that Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne against the AOP with their whole band of black holes of charisma. There very little storyline advancement for anything much because they're already in France. The pay-per-view's in fucking 12 hours or whatever. So what are they really selling? But I did like Paul E. and Nick Aldis. Did you see Paul had the hair completely dark and he had full mortician's makeup on? And he was looking spiffy. And he's trying to tell Aldis that whatever happens if you don't pull Owens and Orton off the pay-per-view, it's going to be on your conscience. And then Aldis gives it back to him. So, well, you're supposed to be in charge, right? All the communication of the bloodline has to go through you. And Paul Lee let it slip that he hadn't talked to Roman Reigns since WrestleMania. And then his face, wow. So Aldis says, so you mean when Roman Reigns pulled out of the draft, that Paul says, yeah, I pulled Roman Reigns out of the draft. I can't subject Roman Reigns to bloodline chaos right now. And so Aldis told Paul if he could pull Roman Reigns out, well, then try to pull Owens and Orton out of the tag team match. But now, Brian, this is where I was going with this. Roman Reigns didn't call his own shot. Roman is ignoring Paul, and Paul pulled him out of the draft, hoping that no one would notice. And this can't be good for the future relationship between Roman Reigns and Paul, can it?
And that makes sense. No one would notice that. I love this segment. Aldis is so great. And it began, what was the first thing he said? Like, permission denied. He just yelled at him. Yeah. Request denied. Whatever he said to him. And it started with that tension and then the revelation. And both guys were so good here that he hasn't talked to Roman since WrestleMania. The bloodline stuff remains the only thing on SmackDown worth watching right now. Not to take anything away from LA Knight.
But an ongoing issue amongst opposing sides of people and et cetera, and what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But then we flowed into, continuing with Paul Lee and Orton and Owens, we flowed into the RKO show at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. And at least Owens came in and handy over there because he can speak French to him. All the voulez-vous parlays and wee-wees and things and such of that nature. And Owens says that he got a call from Paul Lee. He's got something very important to tell him. And, of course, Paul interrupts and comes out, before they're ready for him. And he said some French words, too. I don't know if he used them in the right fashion. And basically, then the fans are already chanting, we want Roman. Because this fan base, we'll talk about it more on the pay-per-view review, but not the fan base, but this collection of fans in France, they were singing, chanting fools, boy. They love to sing and chant. They love to sing about the moon and the June and the spring. So Paul Lee does the brilliant Paul Lee promo about the Bloodline saga and the match at the pay-per-view. He begs them to back out of the match. You don't really know what's going to happen to you. And Orton said, who is the real tribal chief? And Paulie's kind of humming. There's only one tribal chief, but before he can say anything else, Solo and Tamatanga attack the fucking baby faces from behind, and the baby faces fight back, and here comes the agents and the security, and the heels are kind of powdering out, but we didn't get to pin Mr. Heyman down on that answer of who is the real tribal chief, did we now, Brian?
No, or if there's more than one.
Well, he said there's only one tribal chief.
We'll know the answer when Heyman shows up with a Voss piss bottle on SmackDown.
Well, now that's what I'm thinking. There's only one tribal chief, but he has not acknowledged exactly who it is right now. Now, could it be The Rock? Or could it be that Solo is attempting to ascend to the throne before his time, and Roman Reigns is out trying to rediscover his motivation or whatever the story they're going to have for him when he comes back, and blah, blah, and where is Jacob Fatu? That's what I want to know. And then we had LA Knight against Angel with Escobar and etc. And that's where I wrote is this Rampage. And LA Knight won and cut a promo, and he's officially entered the King of the Ring. And that's about all that happened there. And then, well, Escobar said he's going to win the King of the Ring, and LA said, no, you're not. And then Carlito admitted in the back that he attacked Dragon Lee because they picked a flunky like him for WrestleMania instead of me, Carlito. And then Dragon Lee came in and they got in a fight. Shouldn't we have, out of security, it's a farce now anyway, shouldn't we have everybody on the roster handcuffed to a goddamn post in the back before they're allowed to go out? You only handcuff whoever can go out to the ring at a time. 15 fucking backroom brawls in the same wrestling program every fucking week from every company. Why are we doing this still? That's not rhetorical. I'm asking you. I demand an answer.
I'm okay with not. Well, I mean, we're not even reviewing this stuff. We're just talking about why we're not reviewing it because it's not there. Why we're watching it.
No. Well, why are they doing the backstage?
Why are they doing it
every week? Yes.
I don't know.
Every week, all the time. Street Profits wrestled Waller and Theory. Oh, joy, oh, bliss. They've ruined Theory for me. The heels won, by the way, at least. King of the Rings in Saudi Arabia. I wrote that down. I used to get pissed off when the pay-per-views were on the West Coast. I mean, they're 4 hours, 5 hours in a fucking plane. And these fuckers are going to France and Saudi Arabia. I'm glad that I got in the wrestling business in the territory days, because elsewise I would have never gotten a wrestling business. Because it was conceivable that you could be in the wrestling business and work full time every day of the week and still only be away from home in some territories a couple of nights and never see an airplane. But boy, howdy, has that changed. All righty. So then finally, the big main event segment was up, Brian. AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes in the ring face to face. Did they ever tell us what the reason was? We know the match is happening.
Because they're Georgia boys.
Well, they just had to have a good old-fashioned Georgia shootout, right? But
lucky no one whipped out the famous Bagwell slap.
Well, hey, that'd cross your I's and dot your T's. But yeah, this was just so the people could see him that night. And, a little promo for the television viewers for the pay-per-view the next afternoon at 1 o'clock. But when you watch Cody walk to the ring, he's a star. Because he's got the running for office fucking glad handing, the smile, he looks great, the suit. There were so many chants at the beginning, they wouldn't even let him start talking. And then he says, what do you want to talk about in French? And I mean, love is in the room. And whenever AJ would try to speak, the fans at this point, they were screaming and waving and jumping up and down. And finally, they got to speak to each other, and they didn't really need to do much, but they would make a comment back and forth. AJ's story is everybody wanted Dusty's son, but I had to prove myself, that type of thing. But I mean, if they had just gone out there and said, blow me, fuck you, these people were chanting and they were lunatics. But anyway, AJ did a good promo, which is not always his strong point, but it was good. Cody had Hall of Famers watching his back, but AJ's beating all of them and he's going to beat Cody. And that's when I think the fans were singing, what was that the fella said? It was Ali's Vu Stay Phenomenal or
La 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 la.
La 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 la. La 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 la. 'Tis the season for Tony's Folly. All right. Anyway. And then Cody responded and says, don't tear me down to build yourself up and may the best man win type of stuff. And Cody says, AJ, you're going to be my first. And that's too sweet. And then they go to finger bump the too sweet thing. And AJ slaps Cody and leaves the ring. And suddenly in the back, Orton and Owens were having a pull apart with the Bloodline and we went off the air. So that was number 2 or number 3 fight in the back in fucking an hour and 55 minutes. But that was the whole show, wasn't it?
That was SmackDown. Oh, boy.
Hey, I'll make this comment and then we'll move on. That they don't need to do anything. I said this the other day. Right now, the WWE doesn't need to do anything except don't do anything stupid. And Tony Khan is in a position where he needs desperately to do something, but everything he does is stupid. So they've continued to run away with this thing, and you see more than ever after this weekend, my God, I don't know if I'll still be living by the time that the goddamn international market wears off for them. They could run on this for 5 years minimum without having to fucking worry a day about, drawing a house domestically. It's very disheartening for people who were thinking that there would be an alternative that actually had any chance. What chance have they got over at the Arcadian Vanguard Network this week, Brian?
There's a chance for great programs, as always, from the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network. Get information on all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast or on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Of course, each and every day, wake up to the wrestling news for free. Get your wrestling news. No paywall, no clickbait, just the wrestling news. Get it from thewrestlingnews.com directly or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Get the Wrestling News morning newscast every single day. Want to make mention of Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon. It's had a slew of great episodes. The most recent one, Lou Kippelman is his guest. Hear that today. Hear Kippelman at suawpod.com. Or look for Shut Up and Wrestle with Brian Solomon, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! It's late in the day. Go through the archive, 605pod.com. Available wherever you find your favorite podcasts. The Mothership.